course, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode once again of the Victorious Ones podcast. A place where gaming once again meets comics, sports, the rest, movies, and inspiration. Of course, my name is King Von Jr. And of course, on social media, you can follow me on Twitter at there it is, I guess, at 301 King Von Jr. I was looking at the bottom of the screen. At 301 King Von Jr. Of course, Victory Pod One on Twitter. And of course, IG, Mr. King Von Jr., Victorious Ones podcast. We're getting pretty close to these 400 followers on IG. And thank you very much for those that are on Facebook that are joining the Victorious Ones podcast Facebook group. I'm looking to build it and add even more as well. So thank you very much for those that are continuing to help it grow. And so, so of course, as far as this week, when it comes to this road to WrestleMania, like I said, we're really, time is really winding down, even more when it comes to this road to WrestleMania, in regards to, this bloodline situation, as far as like Roman and Cody, and talk about it as well, like on Twitter, Turnbuckle talk, part of it as well, in terms of share our viewpoints in that regards. Like, it's just like on one end, like I said, like I said, Cody's great, but it's just like because Roman's so close to history, it's like, do you really want to jeopardize that? At least, like put a halt to that, especially since it's closing on literally 1,000 days. And speaking of accomplishments, congratulations to Bianca Belair for officially becoming the longest reigning Black champion in WWE history, like 344 days. But it's certainly a slow build, when it comes to her and Asuka. It's just a lot of unspoken words, like pretty much New Japan-ish type of thing. But, I think that's where it's coming from. But at the same time, it's just like, it's different views on it. But it's just like there's so much more that could be done out of this, So, but I still look forward to seeing how things play out match-wise. Same thing when it comes to Rhea and Charlotte, on SmackDown. And of course, Raw kicked off obviously with Edge. Seeing that, of course, we got Edge and Finn Balor officially, I've seen officially announcing they're gonna have the Hell in a Cell match. It's rather like Edge challenging Finn Balor to a Hell in a Cell match on the WrestleMania. Would this be the final chapter in this long-winded storyline? So of course, as far as that, Brock and Omos finally had their face-off, stand-off, whatever. And so, like I said, it's certainly going to be a spectacle match, the big attraction match. So where it falls on the card remains to be seen, so to speak. So as far as that, like I said, that, and also it's just like Cody obviously had that match with LA Knight, but there are a lot of mixed reviews in that sense, where it's just like, you could tell, like like he's getting a little, I wouldn't say, a little tad winded a little bit. At least when it comes to a guy like LA Knight, and so, of course, shout out to somebody like, to Mimi, pointing that out. It just goes to show, like, if you are letting somebody like that take you to that kind of distance, only imagine how it's going to be going up against, a living legend like Roman, so it's just like remains to be seen, so to speak. But yeah, and I think more so when it comes to this bloodline thing, I'm thinking that clearly it's got to be KO finally, reaching out to Sammy and accepting his offer, accepting his help, because KO is going to need all the help. He's going to need all the help they can get, with his hands full to build the bloodline, especially after that match with Solo. I mean, Solo just destroyed him. decimated them. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, like I said, so as far as that, um, so like, everything remains to be seen. So I think that the pictures really come together more so um, when it comes to like Sammy and KO taking on the Usos for the tag titles. That's really what it's starting to look like more and more. And of course, you're gonna have the OG man team. So I think somebody called before, as far as Becky along with the OGs, Trish and Lita taking on Damage Control. You know what I mean? And so like I said, that's gonna that's something gonna be something. So at least the fact that Bailey's gonna be in the ring with some legends like Lita and Trish, especially. So it's just that um, so now it's like three of the four women are still around. Obviously um, Charlotte, Becky, and Bailey. So at least when it comes to that, and of course, when it comes to the NXT side, finally gonna have um, Carmelo versus Braun Breaker for the NXT Championship, and of course, like when it comes to the NXT Women's Championship, there's going to be a ladder match for that. So, a lot of these things have Shawn Michaels' blueprint, have his name written all over it, even with the Roxanne Perez injury and her passing out, things like that. So, um, so as far as that, I guess try to cover as much as I can when it comes to the Raw and NXT side, when it comes to this week of wrestling. But without further ado, um, I would like to go into, go into my spotlight when it comes to the man, the myth, the legend, the folk hero himself, none other than the Texas Rattlesnake, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And of course, Stone Cold, started out in the territories, USWA, under, of course, under Jerry Jarrett, things like that. So he got to start, so you got to start in the territories, and of course, early on, obviously, much long, early on, obviously, he had hair, longer hair, things like that. Longer hair, of course. He was great in the ring, like pretty much very dynamic, dynamic in-ring worker at that time. Of course, early on, the Stunning Steve days, things like that. And of course, goes to WCW, to really take some of the Stunning Steve Austin, I say, character, wearing robes, like Ric Flair, and usually the WCW television champion, at the time. Of course, around the same time they joined the Dangerous Alliance, of course, led by Paulie Dangerously at the time. Of course, they're known the world over as Paul Heyman. And that group consisted of Austin, the late great Ravishing Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Larry Zbyszko, and of course Medusa. Like I said, that was that was one of the best um, teams to not have, to not have somebody that won the world title. So that regard, Dangerous Alliance is still considered one of the all-time great faction. So of course that's when it's originally Get Smart. Around that time, that and of course on the team the Hollywood Blondes, his best friend, late great Flying Brian Pillman. The Hollywood Blondes have made many great names for themselves in the tag team division. Thanks to breezing through right now. And also Maze Mark. Also Maze Mark is a U.S. champion. Was having a feud. One of the most famous feuds, of course, with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Of course, there was even time where he's even had a match with the Great Muta as well. Like I said, we go back and see Austin's work in WCW. You can tell that he definitely had a great upside. It's probably easier today to talk about, in terms of, I guess his upside, like this revisionist history type of thing. But here's the thing about it is that obviously we all know the story how WCW really did not know what to do with the guy like Steve Austin. Eric Bischoff himself even said that there was no way that fans would pay to see somebody with black trunks and black boots. And especially when You got guys like Hogan, his friends coming along and really push Austin further to the side, and then it was eventually got to a point where Austin got injured and Bischoff fired him. You know what I mean? It's so of course, like I said, we all know that story. I'm not going to rehash it, but it just goes to show that um, Austin was one of WCW's hidden gems, best kept secrets, and he only needed that big break, that only needs somebody to really take a chance on him to allow him to grow and spread his wings to become who he was destined to eventually become. And so after his exit from WCW, is taking time from injury. Austin joins ECW, where he reunites with his former manager, Paul Lee Dangerously, of course, like I said, Paul Heyman. And so of course, during that time, that is where we saw the genesis of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And especially that, and the thing is, even though Austin had hair, like I said, this was the genesis of Stone Cold, especially in ECW. Especially when he was doing his promo work, and looking back at those videos, when you see the way Austin looked then, and then you hear that voice, initially it's always like hard to believe that that's the same guy, but that was the genesis, the beginning stages of what we would see as Austin 316, because Heyman gave him the green light to be himself. Heyman gave him the green light to air out his grievances. In regards to the way he was mistreated in WCW, the way that the Eric Bischoff, overlooked him and just and didn't see him for who he was and what he could be. It's of course. Of course, ECW. Austin had a cup of coffee over there, at least to hold him over until it's time for him to, to go into deeper waters with WWE, and the rest is history. And of course, initially, Vince himself wasn't too sure what to do with him. That's why he had obviously had him as the ringmaster, teaming up with Ted DiBiase, being the other $1 million champion, and so it's just that, of course, it's like, of course, his first WrestleMania match was WrestleMania 12, where he beat Savio Vega in a strap match, and eventually, later, eventually, Austin lost thanks to another match to Savio Vega, whatever, which eventually led to Ted DiBiase's exit from WWE, where he eventually went to WCW and be a manager for the NWO and stuff like that. And so even Austin himself went to Vince and was like, "Look, this gimmick sucks. It's terrible. Let me be myself. If anything, that was his way of saying, let me better myself. Let me take this gamble on being who I am." And so. At that time, at that time, wrestlers had more creativity, more liberties, more freedom with their character, the direction of of their career and things like that. So so it wasn't as micromanaged as we've been seeing now. So of course Vince was like, all right, you know what? Let's go and get this guy the green light. Let's see what this is worth. And so by the time we get to May-ish, about like May of 1996, this is when we officially, there's a comment, I'm sorry. This is when we officially see him, so, yeah, all right, so Mr. Bond mentioned the cookout. Oh, you know what, yes, oh yeah, by the way, I'm not exactly sure who the Facebook user is on here, but yeah, I said, sorry, I wasn't at the cookout. It's probably somebody from Twitter or whatever. I'm going to go and check to see what it is. But yeah, like I said, of course, No, we saw, like I said, initially, like I said, this when he was, Stone became Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was so, this week. Okay, thanks a lot. It was so press. Sorry about that. I know it's like, a long time. It's been a minute since I've been on there. Like I said, I guess, been really, really busy with, doing this podcasting and stuff like that. So it's just like, whenever I get a chance, especially like on Sundays when I'm not doing, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, like I guess, like, I guess, whenever these times, I see, like, when I really get a chance to, to really get to get back on spaces. Yeah, I appreciate that. But but yeah, like, but of course, um, like I was, of course, like I was saying before, um, in regards to Austin, like I said, unless it was about, um, yeah, thanks a lot. Like I said, it was about Mayish. Um, yeah, thanks for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate all the support that I can get with this. But like I said, like I said, the thing about it was that, um, it was, like I said, around like Mayish of '96. It was when Austin, officially became Stone Cold Steve Austin, and this is like when he was like more cold and calculating, ruthless. Like I said, really, like I said, like I said, more cold and calculating, deadly-ish type of delivery, if you will, kind of like a natural born killers type of delivery at that time. And plus, like I said, I think that was one of the inspirations, ideas behind that character. This is before he started drinking beer and things like that. Like I said, he was very straightforward, like I said, dead aim type of promos and delivery. You know what I mean? Like I said, he was just, like I said, he was just like straight. Like I said, straight to the point. Like I said, without any super catchphrases and gimmicks and things like that. Like I said, this guy was out to absolutely destroy. Um, and so, fast forward to June of 1996, as we all know, with the King of the Ring. And this is where he really starts to shine. This is where they start, like I said, where they start to put more of the radar on him. As we all know, obviously, the story behind, I said the story behind the King of the Ring in regards to the curtain call. It's funny that I mentioned May 1996 because May of '96 was the same night as the infamous curtain call where Triple H was initially um, set to become the King of the Ring that year, but because he participated in that, and because he wanted to, um, pretty much, I guess, step above his pay grade, if you will, and get his nose in, like in a place where it was supposed to be, in regards to breaking character, Shawn Michaels, Diesel, and Razor, things like that. So obviously the odd man out that was going to be punished was Hunter, because Shawn was the champion. What you really going to do with him? Kevin Scott were already leaving anyway, right? And so Trips was the odd man out. And so because of that, because of that moment of foolishness, he forfeited um, the chance to move up higher sooner. And so because of that, Austin um, took hold of the opportunity, made the most of the opportunity, and shot right up. You know what I mean? So so just goes to show that it's just like, um, don't follow the crowd. You know what I mean? Like I said, don't give in to peer pressure, if you will, and because if you do, because if you do, there's a chance that you're gonna be the fall guy. Where everybody else is off the hook. So let it be a lesson. Don't be Hunter Hearst Helmsley. You know what I mean? So but of course, Austin wins the King of the Ring, defeats Jake the Snake in the finals, gives the iconic, world famous Austin 316 speech, which is on the shirt for those that are watching by way of live stream. Those that are watching on of course, in the Facebook group, those that are watching YouTube by way of StreamYard, by way of StreamYard and everything like that. And of course, I'm wearing the, like I said, the the iconic legendary, rather notorious Austin 316 original pipe bomb, if you will. And so, with that speech, the world just took, everybody just took notice. Like, this is his coming out party, if you will. When it comes to, someone comes to getting that recognition. And so, that King of the Ring opened up so many doors and caught the attention of some pretty big names. Most notably, Bret Hart. Seen by that point, Bret was already 3-time WWF champion at the time. But of course, Bret tells the story of knowing about Steve Austin and following him back when he was Stunning Steve in WCW, and like I said, just seeing what Austin could do in the ring, the way he could deliver, and just having an eye for talent. So Bret had a tremendous eye for talent, and it really paid off in that sense. And the thing is, even at that time, Bret was even putting the bug in Vince's ear about Austin, right? And so, so of course, this long-term booking, if you will, shout out to Public Enemies podcast. So this was long-term booking type of thing. So that Bret, noticed Austin's talent before, and so by the time Austin gets to WWE, he gets a chance to work with somebody who would catapult him to the next level, to being taken seriously on a main event platform. And so, and of course, this goes into his feud with Bret Hart. Of course, at the time where Bret was kayfabe, taking more time off, at least when it came to wrestling. Even though he's wrestling off camera, like internationally in Kuwait and stuff like that, right? So during that time, like during summer '96, when they have those international tours in Kuwait and Germany and stuff like that, him and Austin had matches and whatnot. So, just spoiler alert, I guess cat's out the bag. But in terms of WWF programming, I remember the vignettes and the promos leading to the very first match at Survivor Series '96. Austin was the one that carried the promo work, and especially there was like this amazing black and white promo vignette that Austin did, calling out Bret Hart. And so, I said it was all black and white. I mean, Austin looked like he might as well have been like a warden or something like that with the way it was shot, right? And so, so he was talking about, he's saying like calling out Bret. He was saying like, Bret, the whole world knows that you ran away in shame because you lost to Shawn Michaels, because you got, because you lost to the pretty boy, the boy toy at WrestleMania. He's talking about how, how he tried to hide from his family, and ran away in shame, couldn't face nobody and stuff like that. And so at the end, Austin was saying that of course, the Survivor Series, the Survivor Series, the world will know that you got beat by a real man. Also, so really, he was taking not only a shot at Bret, but also at HBK at the same time. For those that can really catch it. So, so if Chris is still on, I would, of course, if you still watch, if you're still on, I would say look up that Survivor Series '96 promo. I want to say it was, as far as Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, however you want to look it up. But it was great. And so, so of course, during that time, had back and forth and whatever. And then, of course, this culminates into, of course, simultaneously, Austin is also feuding with, with his longtime BFF, Brian Pillman. Of course, this at the same time that we have, of course, the notorious unintentional humor promo known as Pillman's Got a Gun. And so it's just like the way that WWF was pushing the envelope at the time. And of course, Vince greenlit that. I'm almost about to laugh just thinking about it, just talking about it. And just like how Pillman sold that perfectly, right? And so, but of course, this is after Austin attacked Pillman. Like so, after Austin attacked him and broke his ankle and stuff like that, right? And so, of course, with that segment, getting back to the Brett match in a minute, but I've seen of course, like I've seen, like, of course, with that Pillman's got segment, the fact that Vince greenlit that, knowing he knew what he was doing with that, and so of course, it was shot like an episode of Cops, with the way that Austin uh, drove to Pillman's house, beat up Pillman's bodyguards or whatever, and then broke in there, and Pillman had the gun and just shot, and the way that the camera just stopped, and Kevin Kelly was terrified, and so it was like unintentional comedy to the point where Vince had to issue a statement like the next week and apologize for it. I was like, but that was his way of, like I said, of doing damage control. But he knew that he struck a gold mine with that, and so also simultaneously, having these feuds, like I said, one with Brett and the other one with Pillman. And so the thing with Pillman was because he realized how much of a fanboy Brian Pillman was of Bret Hart. So it was 2-on-1. And eventually became led even more later on with the formation of the Hart Foundation. That's another thing. So by the time we get into Survivor Series 96, this is when Bret and Austin officially face off. And when I say they deliver, and this is Austin before the neck injury, and when I tell you that, I would advise people to go back and watch how Stone Cold was prior to the injury, because he could absolutely go. He could straight up deliver. And I'm not saying he couldn't later, but like I said, there was more that he could really dig out of the bag at that point. You look at 96, 97 Austin, I said like pre WrestleMania 14 Austin, that kind of thing, right? So from like 98 on down, that's when we became like way more gimmickish and stuff like that, and as far as the beer and things like that. But before that, like I said, he was just, it's like he was a killing machine. You know what I mean? He had the bald head, black trunks, black boots. I mean, black leather vest. You know what I mean? Like that is an iconic shot, an iconic look in and of itself. And like I said, but the thing is, like I said, the match of itself is, like Austin proving that he became the new best there is, if you will. And so, it's like, like I said, the match is great, and the conclusion of the match really, the conclusion of the match really stuck out to me, because the final sequence was where Austin put Bret in the $1 Million Dream, right? And what Bret does, he takes a page out of the book. He takes a page out of his match with Piper from WrestleMania 8. He took a page out of that book, right? So at the end of that particular match, Piper puts Bret in the sleeper hold. Bret goes over to the corner, and he jumps up, at least he has a way of putting his feet at the top turnbuckle, leans in, pushes off the, he has his feet on the top turnbuckle, right, while he's in the sleeper. Has a way, and the thing is, he pushes into the turnbuckle, just, like I said, I can see, leans in to the turnbuckle and pushes off so that he lands on Piper for the pin. So you have to go back and see that match. So anyway, that's how, of course, that's how Bret won the title. And of course, in this match, Austin does the same thing as Bret in the $1 Million Dream. So Bret goes over to, Bret goes to the corner, puts his feet up on the top turnbuckle, leans in, pushes, leans in and uses his feet to push off. He does you saw what he does. Puts his feet up, leans in, and uses his feet, to push himself off the turnbuckle so that he could lean back on Austin for the pin. And like I said, it's the same sequence, and Austin ended up using that in his match against The Rock at WrestleMania 17. So, like I said, for those who have an eye for wrestling, and follow certain details, if you know, right? So it's like, of course, in that regard, and that was just the genesis of their feud, and so of course, it spills over into the 1997 Royal Rumble, where initially Bret had had Stone Cold eliminated, but the refs didn't see it, because all the refs that usually would they usually would recognize elimination. They were already all distracted with something else. So even after Bret eliminated Stone Cold, none of the refs could see him, right? And so, so of course, Stone Cold being a rattlesnake, with that type of nature, slides back into the ring, eliminates Bret Hart. Meanwhile, but yet the refs see that, right? And so this is when Bret goes in that tirade. Feel like he got screwed over by Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels, Stone Cold Steve Austin, what have you, this, that, and third. And so, it's just like at this point, Stone Cold is just wreaking chaos, just wreaking up the chaos when it comes to Bret. Like, Bret can't get no peace. Bret can't be great, whatever, right? And even when Bret became the champion for the fourth time, it was short-lived because Austin cost him the belt in a match. In the match against Psycho Sid. And so, like I said, of course, fast forward, this leads to, this leads to the match that really, really, really put Stone Cold on the map like never ever before, even more so than the King of the Ring. And this is, of course, none other than the submission match from WrestleMania 13, which is regarded as the conversation as one of, if not the greatest match of all time. And like I said, this submission match, even Stone Cold himself, was nervous about it, because his thing was, he was not a submission wrestler. Like he could do some, he could do some sort of like technical things, but not so much a submission thing. That's a whole nother beast altogether. Bret's got the sharpshooter, so he's regarded as pretty much the submission goat at this rate, right? But they have a great way of making it work, right? And so, of course, this is one of the first times, if not the first time, where Stone Cold has the entrance where it's got the Austin 316 glass, and it just completely breaks. As soon as that music hits, and of course after that, of course Bret comes out right after that. You have to walk through that glass and things like that. And of course, Ken Shamrock was the referee, special guest enforcer, if you will. So of course that added more weight, added more credibility to it, and things like that. And so, like I said, in so many different ways, it was a match for the ages. And like I said, of course, the iconic, like I said, the signature point in that match, of course, the signature moment was, as well known, when Bret Hart pushed Stone Cold the sharpshooter, and Stone Cold's bleeding because Bret hit him with the ring bell. And so, it's the fact Austin was in that sharpshooter with crimson mask, as JR would say, but he never gave up. He just passed out, and that was when we had switch, double turn, right, where Austin was the heel, sort of heel. So where Austin was the heel, Bret was traditionally the face, right? It's that traditional baby face hero type of figure. But this match turned that on its head completely. Where where Austin gets the cheers, where Austin becomes a favorite, and this will Bret officially hits his heel turn, and of course because it becomes Mr. Team Canada, and of course not long after that, you see the formation of the Hart Foundation and everything like that. And of course, like I said, simultaneously, Austin is feuding with Pillman because of Pillman's association with the Hart Foundation as well. So of course during this feud, Austin becomes tag team champion. I see. So first with Shawn Michaels, then with Dude Love, had these simultaneous, simultaneous tag team runs, and and it got to the point where Austin even had a match with Shawn at the 1997 King of the Ring, stuff like that. So all these different like moving pieces were going on at the time. But the thing is, of course, the thing about it is that by this point, Austin has further cemented himself into more of a prominent role, even though he's holding mid-card titles. But at the same time, he's also been a Royal Rumble winner. So he's further push himself into that premier main event scene. It's just a matter of time of when he wins the title, right? And of course, during the same time, he was also in the IC title picture. Of course, like I said, during the IC title picture, this is where he's feuding with Owen Hart for the title. And of course, here we are at SummerSlam '97, one of the scariest times of anybody's career ever. And this is, like I said, this was a moment of uncertainty. Where there was a bad spot. There was it was missed time and things like that. Of course, Austin infamously lands wrongly on his neck. Lands, of course, where Austin. I'm sorry, like I said, this where Austin lands wrongly thanks to Owen Hart's inverted tombstone power driver. So instead of Owen, instead of Owen landing on his knees, just like Undertaker with the tombstone, instead of him doing, excuse me, right, still pausing that one. But the thing is, instead of Owen landing like the Undertaker with the tombstone, in terms of like knee first, Owen landed. Owen did a tombstone sitting down, and so and the thing, especially when you look at the space between Austin's head to the mat, it's tough to go back and watch it now. And the fact that he was able to finish the matchup and do that roll up, I mean, that's some type of just extra level determination. Like a guy that I said that was committed to being the best at what he did. Of course, becomes a champion, gets stripped of the title and things like that. It's and of course, this leads to this leads to the first time that he ever gave Vince McMahon a stunner, right? And so of course that's what that's one of those things that further escalated his popularity and things like that. And so of course. So of course, not only that, this also during the genesis of his feud with The Rock, who's also with the Nation domination at the time. So of course, Rock and Austin started that feud initially over the Intercontinental IC title, and so of course, I see one of the most famous parts of that feud. Of course, of course, was when Austin threw the IC title over that bridge, like into the river, whatever, you know what I mean? And so like I said, yes. So as far as that, um, you know, so of course, um, Austin also relinquish the IC title to the Rock, and the same, the reason, of course, that would eventually lead to bigger and better things. And so, of course, he would see the Rock later down the road, and of course, here we are when it comes to um, the 1998 Royal Rumble, and this is where Stone Cold really. This is when we really skyrockets. This is when Vince really put the quote unquote rocket on his back. So of course the 1998 Royal Rumble, one of the greatest Royal Rumbles of all time. And when you go back and watch the build up to that, I mean, that was something spectacular. That was something incredible. All these different Raws leading up to WrestleMania. Of course, Austin knew that, pretty much like Austin knew that he was the target, and so because I'm like, especially with the build up to that Royal Rumble. Again, especially like once it's like the Raw, like leading right. There was even a Raw leading right up to the Royal Rumble. Austin, where Austin would come out and give the stunner to everybody that would be part of the Rumble. So like I said, I think it was like the Monday before the Monday before that pay-per-view, where Stone Cold was just going out and giving everybody a Stone Cold stunner, and just letting everybody know that they're marked. I said, just as much as he is. So it's just like, pretty much, excuse the expression, paraphrase, Tupac, all eyes on him, right? So of course in that 98 Royal Rumble, it did not disappoint. It did not fail to deliver. It was absolutely incredible, and especially with the sequence between Austin and Rock in that rumble. And I think they're also like the final participants as well. And so of course for Austin to give Rock the stunner and eliminate him the way that he did is absolutely magnificent, absolutely incredible. And of course, this is actually the fast track of WrestleMania, where where Austin becomes the number one contender and squares off against Shawn Michaels. And this is when Iron Mike Tyson was the special enforcer, baddest man on the planet. At the time he was lined up with DX, but just that press conference leading up to WrestleMania was absolutely epic. I remember like it was yesterday. I was a kid. The thing is, I was a kid at that time. Which is 98, so that's like 9 at that time, right? And I remember that was like the first WrestleMania that I remember that we ordered, right? And I remember that night like it was yesterday. Like I said, WrestleMania 14 is an all-time favorite of mine when it comes to my favorite WrestleManias, and it's because of not only that build-up. Most importantly, like the build up, so build up to that match. Like looking back on it, was it Austin's best match? Was it Shawn's best match? No, but I think just the significance of them being in the ring for that title, like that sort of passing of the torch. Like I said, that transition, the dawning of a new era, and they're two of my all-time favorites. So I was kind of torn between the two. I was a big Stone Cold guy, but also at the same time, I was a huge fan of Shawn Michaels, right? And so, so of course, the match certainly delivered, and this became Stone Cold's, this became Stone Cold's coronation. So this is the official coronation of Austin, also the coronation of the Attitude Era. So this was like the first official WrestleMania of the Attitude Era, right? And so of course, like I said, so initially Tyson was allowed with DX, but when the match was over, rips off his shirt. He's got an Austin, got an Austin 16 shirt the whole time, And so of course, that's when, you know, of course, as we all know, that's when he knocked out Shawn Michaels, and of course, I said, of course, the rest is history. And of course, like the thing is, and like I said, I was happy for Austin, but little did I know that Sean would take that long of a break, because that's story there. But like I said, this is Austin's coronation. This was a new king has been crowned. Like I said, a new king is on the throne at this point, and and so it's just like that this is the start of a new era, and this is when of course things started to skyrocket, and just would never look back. You know, and of course Stone Cold was the driving force for WWF during its most heated and contentious um, time in company history during the Monday Night Wars with WCW, right? And so Austin was the franchise player. He was a guy that they built um, their team around, the guy that the company put its show, that's the guy that carried who carried the company on his shoulders, right? And so of course, you have other great movie pieces like DX, The Rock, The Undertaker, this, that, and third. But Stone Cold had to be front and center. So, um, and it was a great ride to enjoy. And so of course, of course afterwards, um, this is of course, of course afterwards, Austin also goes into feuds with likes of Duke Love, um, Kane, which is when his first rank ended his first blood match. Obviously, Kane wasn't in the league because he had a mask on. So, but of course, the next night, Austin gets the belt back, um, feuds with the Undertaker. Of course, so of course, that leads into the SummerSlam match, things like that, and so so eventually, um, uh, so of course, eventually, um, lose the title again, and of course, this leads to lose the title again, strip the title, whatever. But of course, this is when this feud really, because of course, when things really start to heat up with himself and Vince. And of course, this leads into Survivor Series '98, um, where I said at the time that I said where Austin gets really screw out the title, and Vince was grooming. Vince was grooming his own centerpiece for the corporation, which would eventually become Austin's greatest rival, none other than The Rock. So The Rock became the ultimate weapon for the corporation. And of course, to counter Stone Cold Steve Austin, who was Mr. Counterculture himself. But since we're talking about Austin, I don't know if you can hear that. Have a toast. Canada Dry. In our 316 day. But anyway, so, son, of course, by this point, um, this is by this point, Austin's really got his hands fully wrapped up. This whole Vince McMahon thing. Of course, regards like there's like the Ministry of Darkness, um, Stephanie getting abducted, and things like that. So like, see, there's Stone Cold has a lot of moving pieces, going around this whole corporation feud, McMahon feud, and things like that. And of course, got to the point where Vince himself even won the 1999 World Rumble and cheated Stone Cold, out of winning his third straight Rumble. So 1999 was Austin's third straight Rumble win, but of course, Vince being Vince had to get into the way of that, and this led into their cage match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which is the debut of Paul White later on the Big Show. So the thing is, Big Show was there to attack Stone Cold. He inadvertently helped Austin win by launching him into the cage as the cage opened for Austin to escape. And so of course, because Austin One, he got his got his number one contender shot to, for his, let's say for his collisions crash course, um, not crash course, but eventually for his path and the Rock's paths to collide um, at WrestleMania 15. So this was the first match of their trilogy, right? And of course, this was the biggest match. Um, so this was the biggest match of that night. Of course, this is what Austin wins, and Austin, Austin becomes he was like a three-time WWF champion at that point, I believe. But of course, like that was the best match um, of that night. Of course, that wasn't like the biggest WrestleMania, but like I said, it was great. Um, so it was a great back-to-back for us, in regards to WrestleMania. So of course, um, like of course, um, like I said, back, like I said, like I said, like I said, start, like I said, once again, at the same time, of course, he's still feeling the demands, everything like that, and so like sports this is a time where Austin's at the height of his game. Um, like I said, in terms of just being a mega star and just like I mean, his star just was just shining at his absolute brightest. He was just absolutely unstoppable. He was completely unbelievable. And this was at the time where he was even at the 1999 VMAs. He was making appearances on Celebrity Deathmatch. Like that. Like Austin in 98, 99 was an absolute phenomenon. You know what I mean? And so, and so like and the things he just built so much of a foundation, so much of a so much of a stage for WWE to be where it is today, because of the impact that he had um, during that Attitude Era. And so by late 1999, as we all know, he gets hit by Rikishi at Survivor Series 99. This is when Rikishi says, "I did it for The Rock." Of course, you never argue that pretty much this and third. So, of course, um, so of course, for a while, Austin, for a while, Austin's put on the shelf. You know, so because of that, that's when The Rock takes over. And so by the time we get to by the time we get to the end of the 2000s, Stone Cold's back, and of course the challenges for the WWF title was part of that. So it was part of Armageddon. Um, of course, part of Armageddon six man on cell match, and so like I said, so let's say that sorry, like I said, this one, um, this one, this is when he was part of the Armageddon six man on cell match. Himself, The Rock, Triple H, Undertaker, Kurt Angle, and Rikishi. And Angle wins, um, and like I said, I think it was all simultaneously during his feud with Triple H, and that eventually culminated with with that the three stage of hell match at and No Way Out. Well, actually, like even after Armageddon, Austin won his third and final Royal Rumble, making him the only wrestler to ever win. Like I'm sorry, so of course, um, Austin, Austin became the first and only wrestler to ever win three Royal Rumbles. So Austin became the first and only wrestler to become a three-time Royal Rumble winner, right? And of course, um, by the time he gets to No Way Out, this when he has his three stage of hell match with Triple H, where Austin wins, and this was the conclusion of his feud with Triple H. And of course, this is where he's back to his back to unfinished business, The Rock. And so the build up to that match was phenomenal. Of course, Limp Bizkit My Way or the Highway. Of course, that. I said the promo that they had with Austin was like, "I gotta beat you, Rock. I gotta beat you. Like, if it's the last thing I do, you know, what I mean. So, like he was just determined. Like, and it's just like he was planting seeds where he was just like, determined that he had to beat the Rock. So if it was the last thing they could ever do, that he was just this unseen, just this unheard of type of like determination and focus, that we probably never seen Austin like ever have before. It was just something about just this level of desperation that he had. Um, and so of course this leads into WrestleMania 17, my favorite WrestleMania of all time. It's my favorite Rock Austin match of all time, and from start to finish, like I said, the quality in this match was absolutely phenomenal. They dug deep into their bag out of all the WrestleManias that they had, the WrestleMania trilogy. This match, spoiler alert, is number one for me. And the fact that they pulled out so many stops, the fact that they each did the sharpshooter. Austin even pulled out the $1 Million Dream, like he was determined to win that belt by any means necessary, no matter what. To the point where he was like, when he went to his back catalog, if you will. And so, and this is the point. Of course, this is the part where like Slam. This this is the part where things really get interesting. So, and not for the better, right? Um, and so, this was the turn that was not on anybody's bingo card. Austin joined the dark side and turned heel with Vince McMahon, and in fact that Vince just showed up out of nowhere, right? And so that's just unexpected. And the fact that Austin took that chair and hit the Rock with it multiple times, and to beat him for the title. And like I said, and think about of course, lean into that. Like, so the fact that they pulled everything out of the hat, and the fact that they used multiple finishes and kicked out no matter what. But like I said, but the conclusion of that match was just so notorious. The fact that Austin took that chair and hit the Rock multiple times to become champion and shook Vince's hand. That was the worst part about it. The fact that he shook Vince's hand and turned to the dark side was devastating and disappointing in so many different ways. And it's just like, no, I don't think anybody was ready for a heel Stone Cold. I certainly was not ready for a heel Austin. So of course, this is at the time that WWF buys WCW. Of course, this is when we start the invasion angle, which is the part that a lot of us would rather forget. This the heel Austin, they show heel comedic side of Austin, if you will. They just happened that they held the title longer. I was not really the biggest fan of this version of Austin at the time. Looking back on it, I see he's more comedic, but even he would disagree with it. Disagree with his decision being. He wishes that he didn't turn heel. So of course with that, like, so we started, of course he was the one that was leading the charge, for the alliance, and of course this also going to culminate in the Rock's return with Team WWF defeats the alliance at Survivor Series 2001, and then after that, of course after that, Austin ends up, of course after that, Austin ends up defending the title. Austin defending the title at Avengers 2001, where he loses to Chris Jericho, and so of course by this point, his body starts to give out on him. Of course, we don't know about the Booker T thing and everything like that. And of course, WrestleMania 18, Scott Hall, so on and so forth, whatever. And then they of course makes that return and finally has a match with Hollywood Rock um, at so the Hollywood Rock, of course, at WrestleMania 19, which was the finale of the trilogy and the final conclusion. Things like that. You could tell it was the end. It was awesome. Body, like I said, was given out on. Of course, eventually went to the Hall of Fame in 2009, and took this long break all the way up until he came back last year for that Kevin Owens match. But but the thing is, like Stone Cold left an incredible mark with WWE. He's been a 6-time WWE champion, 2-time Intercontinental champion, multi-time tag team champion, 3-time Royal Rumble winner, 1996 King of the Ring. And so, those are just some of his accolades. So, in conclusion, I like to go into my top 10 Stone Cold matches. Number 10, SummerSlam 1998 versus The Undertaker. Number 9, Over the Edge 1998 versus Dude Love. Number 8, WrestleMania 15 versus The Rock. Number 7, SummerSlam 2001 versus Kurt Angle. Number 6, WrestleMania 14 versus Shawn Michaels. Number 5, the 3-Stage of Hell match versus Triple H from No Way Out 2001. Number 4, Survivor Series 1996 versus Bret Hart. Number 3, WrestleMania 19 versus The Rock. Number 2, WrestleMania 17 versus The Rock. Number 1, WrestleMania 13 versus Bret Hart. So that is my wrestling spotlight on the GOAT himself, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and may you enjoy the rest of your 316 day. Happy 316 day, everybody. And that's the bottom line, because I said so.